Hello, good game. Welcome back, ghouls and goblins. I hope you're having a magical day. Thank you so much for taking the time to support the channel. This is part 2 of our new decks for the Midnight Hunt within Innistrad. In part 1, we looked at the first 10. We had a ton of cool decks. You guys left a lot of really cool suggestions of what you want to see included within my next set of builds as well, which is really cool. The same goes for this video, right? Let me know which decks that we showcase that you want to see showcased first, and then if I miss anything, definitely don't hold back. Let us know in the comments below, and then maybe we can build that deck as well. So with this being said, we're going to take a look at the last 10 decks. If you find any value within the video, be sure to like it. It's free, it's great, it helps me immensely. You can also subscribe to the channel if you want to see more cool content like this. Become a community member since you're that far down the rabbit hole. That's going to be available within the Linktree link. Join the Discord, right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy, and maybe even become a Patreon. So again, I thank you all for your time and attention. It really does mean the world to me. Let's check out these last 10 decks. All right, out of the gate, we have Esper Control, Rite of Oblivion, focused around Rite of Oblivion. For 2 mana, a sorcery speed, as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a non-land permanent. Exile, target non-land permanent, flashback for 4. Absolutely amazing, right? So we have 3 copies of this in deck, castable 6 times through the flashback. We have non-land permanents to sacrifice via Secret of the Keys, instant speed for 1, investigate, flashback for 4, investigate twice. Flip the switch for 3, instant speed, counter spell unless its controller pays 4, create a 2/2 black zombie, right? So 4 copies of Flip the Switch, 2 copies of Secret Keys, so that's total of 8 copies for the Rite of Oblivions, which you can cast 6 times, so you get a little bit of a buff because you're not always going to have them in the perfect order, right? So that's great. We also have Divide by 0, which can learn, which is really cool, potentially reduced to memory. But I doubt that you're going to exile something of yourself and then get it again, right? Fateful Absence, at the same time, you can nuke a creature or one of your own planeswalkers to investigate again. But these are very, very unlikely plays. You're not going to be doing this really ever. Moving away from that, it is a Magecraft build, right? We have Professor Onyx that's probably going to close out the game. Faithful Mending, draw cards, gain life, discard cards, flashback, which is great for the replayability. Siphon Insight, basically playing your opponent's deck, again with flashback for replayability, which is really nice. Removal within Vanishing Verse, Divide by 0, getting us into our sideboard, grabbing some tempo as well. We talked about Flip the Switch for the counter, Exile through the Mastery, Doomscar for the wipe with Verdict on the side, and then the Onyx to get the job done with some of our new great lands here, the Desert Breach and the Shipwreck Marsh, which is really cool. So, just your general Esper Magecraft, keeping things really light, low to the ground, lots of draw and interaction with our opponent's deck, and then some really hard removal that I hope to see be fairly effective. I really do like Rite of Oblivion. This could potentially shine brighter in the Lolth decks, but I didn't want to get, an Esper build out of the way. And it just turned out that we had so much instant speed spells, right? Like all of this is instant speed, except for Rite of Oblivion at sorcery, which allows us massive interaction with our opponent. And then, Doomscar and Verdict will be sorcery as well. And then Professor Onyx. But, a really cool deck that I'm excited to play and excited to work with throughout the season. So that was our first deck, Boros Burn. This is based around the Thermo Alchemist, getting into our gallery here. And the Thermo Alchemist, this is a reprint, 0/3 with Defender. We can tap it to deal 1 damage to each opponent, and then whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, untap the Alchemist, right? So we want to be casting cheap instances and sorceries on our opponent to, be untapping it consistently. So we have Light Up the Night, which is really cool, X damage, and then we can cast it from our graveyard to remove loyalty, and remove loyalties. Rowan is going to be reducing the cost of our spells, dealing damage, and we can remove the loyalty to cast Light Up the Night a second time. Play with Fire, that damage and scry, which is really cool. Spikefield Hazard, Bloodthirsty Adversary has haste, and we can replay those things from our grave potentially. Sacred Fire, the Smoldering Egg, we talked about this. 2 damage, 2 life, flashback for 6. Smoldering Egg, you know, gaining 7 counters equal to the mana value that we're casting on top of it, then transforming it to the dragon, and then whenever we cast it, it's 2 damage to any target, which is cool. And then the Moonrager Slash, you know, 3 damage to any target, potentially for 1. And the Lorehold Command, you know, 3 damage, gain 3 life, draw a card potentially here, which is nice as well. So a deck that I'm really, really excited to play with. And I was actually thinking that we may want to potentially put in a little Shockaronis here, if you know what I mean, right? I think that could vastly benefit the deck, but I was nervous to cut too many lands, so that's something that I do want to play with more in the future. And again, a lot of these lists they're prototype lists. I've not played with them. You know, I've done a few rolls. I've got a few more ideas on how to edit them every day. So just sharing that with you guys live. Into our next deck here, we have the Demir Control with Bloodline Culling. Really excited about this. Instant speed for 3. Target creature gets -5/-5 until the end of turn. Target tokens, or creature tokens, I should say, get -2/-2 until the end of turn, right? So you're nuking one creature or you're slaying all the tokens at instant speed. Wow, I absolutely love that. Infernal Grasp here, single target removal, losing 2 life in the process on creature. Siphon Insight, playing our opponent's deck, which is nice. We know about Divide, we know about Saw It Coming, we know about Soul Shatter. Memory Deluge, pretty cool. Instant speed for 4. Looking at the top X cards, top 4 cards of our library, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast this spell. 2 of them into our hand, the rest on the bottom of our library in a random order, and then Flashback for 7, which is neat. The Verdict and the Snow. Professor for the Magecraft with All-Round's Epiphany on top, right? Really basic deck. Not much going on here, but the Bloodline Culling is just so much fun. I'm really going to enjoy this, I think, whether it's single target removal or stopping those token decks really, really early on. Into our decks again, and on to the next. We have Mono Green Stompy. New cards here. The Willowgeist for 1. 1/1 with Trample. Whenever a card leaves your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Sadly, we don't have Scavenging Ooze. That would be so, so cool. And then when it dies, you gain life equal to its power. But it's a 1/1 with Trample that gets buffed up through Ranger's class and potentially also through our Inscription of Abundance, which is a lot of fun. And we're really focused on that Trample because we have Unnatural Growth to double our toughness and power, which is really, really sick when we have Trample, right? So Old Growth Droll has Trample, the Primal Adversary has Trample, Frogmoth or Froghemoth has Trample as well, and the Pack Leader can gain Trample. Augur playing lands and potentially creatures off the top. Ranger's class also playing creatures off the top, which is cool. Removal within the Brawl, within Abundance, Ramp within the Sentinel, land within the Hydra, and the Adversary can turn our lands into 3/3 Wolves with Haste to protect us if there's a wipe, which is pretty cool. So Mono Green looking fairly sturdy, which is really, really cool. Into our decks again, and the Golgari Poison, built around Sereth, which will give us Death Touch on tapped creatures and untapped creatures hexproof. We can pay 1 and tap it to tap another target creature or land that we control, which is pretty cool, right? So we are using this in conjunction with Finn. You know, that's activating, you know, the poison ability whenever a creature with Death Touch deals damage. Trigger a poison counter, 10 poison counters, you win, right? Or is it 20? Either way, you know, poison counters, you win, LOL. And then it's Sledgemoor Witch with Plumb the Forbidden to make a ton of pest tokens. And then we're using the Dean, the back side of the Dean, which I'll show you here in 1 sec. Oh no. Here it is. The back side of the Dean, whenever we gain life, we can pay 1. If we do, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature we control, and then those creatures gain Trample, right? So if we have Death Touch, if we have Trample, that's going to assign those poison counters basically immediately, and we should win the game. So that's kind of where we're going there. We also have the Meathook Massacre. You know, we can easily gain life here and just deal chip damage as well. The Twitch, the Veil, the Rebirth, You know, all there for protection and value. Hunt for specimens. You know, it's just a it's a pest deck that's now, you know, using those pests to incorporate Death Touch and Trample and hopefully get the win through Finn. But still a deck that I think can compete without Finn just through the Trample tokens when you're going so wide, right? And the death triggers here, which is really cool, right? As well. So you could potentially just aristocrat it. Anyway, moving on, we have my favorite deck, and I'll show you why. You know how long it took me to get this deck built? This is the Your 420 Curse deck. It's going to cost you $420 to buy. That's how you know it's good, right? And this is really cool because we're using all of the curses, right? We have Curse of Silence, we have Curse of Shaken Faith, we have Curse of Leeches, and finally Curse of Surveillance, which is sick. All of these curses, you know, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 different colors of curses. And then we have Moonveil Regent, which is really, really cool as well. So, right, so we're going to be drawing cards. We're going to be dealing a bunch of damage as well when it leaves the battlefield, and it's a non-legendary, so we can cast multiple copies. You know, of course, Goldspan Dragon here is here as well with Alrund's Epiphany, right? You know, it's really easy just to win the game this way. Talking about the curses, at the beginning of Enchanted Player's upkeep, any number of players other than that player each draw cards equal to the number of curses attached to that player, right? So this is really cool. It's going to allow us to draw cards when it's their upkeep, equal to the number of curses, 1 as a minimum as Surveillance is attached, building up to a potential of 4, drawing 4 cards on their, you know what I mean, on their upkeep. That's insane. Of course, we have Cathartic Pyre as removal. Curse of Silence, spells of the chosen name are 2 more to cast. If they do cast it, we can sacrifice it to draw a card, our choice. And then Shaken Faith, whenever they cast a spell other than the first spell they cast each turn or copies a spell, deal 2 damage to them. Amazing. And then the Leeches, at the beginning of their upkeep, they lose 1 life, you gain 1 life, pretty sick. And then we can actually transform it and gain a 4/4 Leech as well, which is a lot of fun. Divide by 0, Prismari Command, you know, holding it together. And the Moonveil Regent, you know, just so sick here as well. So I think this deck has a lot of potential. There's the general sideboard with the lessons that you're probably already familiar with. And like I said, the Your 420 Curse deck is no joke. I'm really excited for this one. Anyways, back to our decks. We have a few left. This is Mono White Aggro. You know, kind of upgrading Milky Smooth, which is really, really cool. Flirting with Fateful Absence. I kind of like it. And I think it's something that we're going to main board, but we do have to try it out and practice with it a little bit. As far as what changes, the Lunarch Veteran in play. It's really cool with the second cast because the Disturb, right? We can play it as a creature, and then later we can play it from the graveyard, which is going to help us with the second cast as we're top decking 1 card and then we're playing 1 from the grave, right? That's quite cool. You know, just all the stuff, you know, the Cleric, the Monk, the Paladin class, the Hole, the Spirit, the Adversary. Very cool addition to the deck because we're going wide with tokens. We cast this late game, all of our tokens get buffed up, which is really cool. Plus the lifelink for consistency against the other aggro decks in the meta, which is cool. The Takedown for removal, Luminarch Aspirant to buff our creatures, Binder to, you know, stop the control decks alongside Redain, Skyclave for removal as well, right? So nothing new here. I think we'll probably add a Snowhaven in there as well, but Fateful Absence probably in the deck. You know, I'm just not too entirely sure what we remove. Potentially Skyclave Apparition, as it is cheaper and it's still getting rid of the creature, and we don't really care about the non-land permanents. It's just the creatures as an aggro deck. So, you know, that's kind of what I think. Let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions definitely in the comments below. Back to our deck list. Holy Toledos. Is it spells with Vadric? Now, this one is pretty big-brained, and we might need to work on it more. Vadric, if it's neither day nor night, it becomes day as it enters the battlefield. Instances and sorceries cost X less to cast, where X is its power, and whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, put a +1/+1 counter on Vadric. So this is going to be pretty crazy. It's going to immediately switch and become a 2/2 or a 2/3 as it enters. because it triggers, unless it's already triggered for some reason. And then, you know, just reducing the cost of your spells by 2 is already good. We use a lot of instant speed spells in the deck so we can force the turn of day to night, right? If we're casting 2 or more spells, it turns to day. If we don't cast any spells, it turns to night. So the instant speed spells will allow us to turn it to night, and then we can flip it to day, back and forth, gaining those +1/+1 counters on Vadric, reducing the cost of our spells. Oran's Epiphany, Magma Opus, they're going to get the job done. Light up the night with the X cost as well. Holy Toledo's talk about direct damage. Arcane Infusion for the nice, you know, look through your deck, get what you need. Pyre for removal. Spectral Adversary, you know, very good flash damage-based flyer. The iteration here to copy if we need. And then, you know, some counterspell of our own as well, which is pretty cool. And the one and only Delver of Secrets. Look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card if it's an instant or sorcery. Transform it. And as we transform it, like, you guys are going to lose your mind here. I guess people know about this. This is new to me. We get a 3/2 with flying for 1 mana. Woo! Holy Toledo's, right? A very, very cool card and a very cool deck that I'm really excited to play. Moving on, we have the Mono Black Aristocrats. This is cool. So we have the Meathook here. As it enters the battlefield, each creature gets -X/-X until end of turn. Whenever a creature you control dies, opponent loses 1 life, and whenever a creature you control dies, whenever a creature you control dies, opponent loses 1 life, and whenever a creature an opponent controlled dies, you gain 1 life. Either way, you know, it's going to get the job done. So we've got a lot of creatures, right? And then we're building around both Jadir and the Jaren. Jaren's probably more important. The Corrupted Bishop for 3. A 2/3 when it enters the battlefield, or another non-token human you control dies, you lose 1 life and create a 1/1 white human creature token, right? So whenever a non-token human dies, we get to create a 1/1 white human, which is cool. We'll lose 1 life in the process. We can pay 2 to give a human lifelink to gain that life back. And then at the beginning of your end step, if you have 13 life, you may pay 6 if you do transform it. And it's a 6/6 demon with flying, and it can pay 1 to... No, it doesn't even have to pay 1. It can just sacrifice another creature to draw a card. That's going to trigger those death effects on the Meathook, which is really cool. And then Flying Trample, lifelink. I'm going to gain all that lifelink back, right? Which is really, really cool. Back to the gallery here, I guess. So that's sick, right? So whenever a human dies, we get a human token. We have Finale, so those tokens get +1/+1. Plus, we're going to get a 2/1 flyer that becomes a 3/2. Very sick. And then the Awakener, a 1/1. You can pay 3, sacrifice a creature, draw a card, then transform it. Again, it's just it's not great, but it's pretty good as a 1-drop. You know, it's been a 4/4, right? You can't complain with that. It could help you potentially, and it's just a nice 1-drop that has interaction, and you can get value from it. The Paladin, again, same thing here. Very cheap card. We get value from it through creating a treasure token. The Procession, creating zombies. The Occultist is cool. When it dies, we draw a card and lose life. And then Jadar, I wanted to talk about. If we don't control any other creatures with decay, it brings in a zombie with decay. So for 2 mana, you get a 1/1, and you get a 2/2. And potentially, you can sacrifice that creature and keep bringing more 2/2s into play for free, which is sick on your upkeep. We talked about the Occultist. We talked about the Meathook. The Strangler, 2/1, can't block. When it dies, return it transformed, and it will attach to a Planeswalker or... I don't think it's a creature. It might be a creature. Yeah, just a creature or Planeswalker an opponent controls, and then at the beginning of the Enchanted Permanent's controller, they sacrifice a non-land permanent and lose 1 life, right? So it should be the thing that was enchanted with this. However, if you enchanted something really good, they're going to try to just prolong it and lose that life and sack something else instead, which is really cool. A lot to this deck that's new, which is really cool. And then the Sledgehammer Witch to make lots of pests for us. as well, right? And those pests are gonna, be 2/2s, which is cool as well. So, that's kind of what we have going on here. We have the Eye Tyrant as the land as well. That was Mono Black Aristocrats. Let's see our next deck. These videos truly... Oh, it's our last deck. Thank the Lord. I was going to say, I don't know if I can take much more here. And really excited about this new Teferi. I had a lot of people be like, it's bad, but I am crushing on it hard. So similar to the last deck, the +1 ability, right? It's a 4 mana, 4 loyalty planeswalker, +1, untap artifact, land, and creature, or tap them if it's an opponent's thing, right? -2, look at the top 3, put 1 into our hand, the rest in the bottom in any order. Then -7, untap our permanents on our opponent's untap, and then draw as well, which is just like absolutely insane. Mixed with a ton of instant speed stuff. We have the creature to untap within the Kafar Harbinger, 1/3 on our turn 2. We can tap it to foretell or instant and sorcery, which is really cool. And then turn 3, it's the Skyclave Relic and the Solidas again, tapping for mana. So Teferi out on turn 4, we have 2 spare mana still, right? And then Teferi's plus ability will untap 3 things, which brings us to 5, at which point, we have Sought coming to protect it. We have Faithful Mending to draw if we need. We have removal if we need it. Double counter potentially if we need it. And then building in 2 Nico Defies Destiny, replaying lots of foretell, gaining lots of life, which is really cool, and reducing the mana. Potentially turn 4 Epiphany through Nico, if not turn 5 through Teferi, which is just as good. And then Emiria's Call to help us finish out Doomscar with Vanquishing the Horde on the side. A deck I'm super, super excited about. The general sideboard here for the lessons as well. Storm Giants for the land, and the Deserted Breach is a very, very helpful land to not only this Azorius build, but many other, like, the Bant and the Espers as well, which we've not seen support for in some time. Holy Toledos, you guys. That's 20 decks. We ran through 20 decks, 10 in this video, 10 in the last of Innistrad Midnight Hunt. I'm going to make these public so you guys can see them, check them out. I'll have the link for my decks in the profile below. And yeah, you can let me know what you think. We can edit them, make them better. We can, maybe even potentially brew some more if anybody's got some big brain ideas. So I really do appreciate all the time and attention that everybody's spent with the channel recently. You're all amazing. I hope you have a magical day. Take care and maybe enjoy some more content. We'll see you soon in the next.